And welcome everyone to the Power of Man podcast. My name is Rory Paquette, and I am, as always, your very grateful host. Thank you so much for joining us yet again today. Folks, you are the reason that we're here. You are the reason that we are approaching 200 episodes. You are the reason that we have changed our broadcasting platform from, 2 times a week to five, because we have that kind of interest. We have that sort of um, fantastic gentleman that's coming on the podcast with us and wanting to share their ideas, and we're having that kind of response. And it's all because of you. So thank you very much. And we do have a very, very special guy on with me today. Before I introduce this guy, I got to, and you guys all know what's coming, got to take a sip of my preferred beverage. That's right. And if you're a friend of the program, you know what we're drinking. It's Freedom Hill Coffee. That's right, Freedom Hill Coffee. Bold, beautiful, dark, deep, rich, just like my wife. And they do all the right things for all the right reasons. They brew a mean cup of Joe, and they help out veterans, which is why we support them. Look them up on Instagram at Freedom Hill Coffee, and definitely tell them that Power of Man sent you. We have another veteran with us today. Please welcome to the podcast, author of All Your Best Selves, a former Marine, and 20-year actor. This guy's got it all going on for him right now. James Rojas-Taylor. James, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Rory. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it very much.
Absolutely my pleasure. You and I have an awful lot in common, but I talk to a lot of veterans, and so they're instantly going to want to hear what you have to say. Okay, being a former Marine, but I mean, I can't wait to hear your story, and especially how you go from 6 years in the Marines to being an actor for 20 years. Because in my mind, I'm like, wow. But James, tell everybody who you are, why are you here?
Um, my story's a little complex because I guess I'm a complex individual. I'm very much a sponge. I absorbed my whole life. And I guess this idea, along with my story, it all starts at the beginning of my life when I was 4 years old. I traced it all the way back, and that's how far it goes.
Wow.
When I was four, my parents took me to midnight mass, and the concept of eternity clicked with me, and it freaked me out. If there's no end, there could be no middle. It's only perpetual beginning. So 10,000 eons from now, even though I didn't understand the time, I would still exist. So the whole thing was, what do I do with eternity once I've done everything so many times over? Boredom freaked me out. That's what got to me. And I was a little one. So my response was to regress inside myself. And I instinctually treated my mind like a supercomputer. I created these programs. Two of my earliest programs were my suits and bubbles. My suits were different versions of me. So every time I met someone, I would actively listen and absorb everything I could mentally and emotionally from them and recreate them as myself so I could see the world through their eyes. My bubbles were like the holodeck in the Star Trek universe. They could be anytime, any place, anywhere in the world. So I would take these suits, put them in bubbles, create scenarios, and run through multiple different ones so I can act out things before I interacted in the situation so I can make better choices. Because my parents always said, make good choices, don't be stupid. But that's a platitude. What does that mean? I created my own system. So that's kind of what guided me through my youth. It sent me through when I got into high school. I started theater one. That was my first connection to acting, but I was never really drawn to acting. I got kicked out after 6 weeks and sent to JROTC, and that kind of helped send me to the Marine Corps.
Okay.
When I jumped in the Marine Corps, I did 6 years there, and I loved the Marine Corps, but I wasn't built for where I was. I scored too high in the ASVAB, and I got stuck in the wing. And the wing is very different. I got in a lot of trouble. I got like 30 page 11s. My first page 11 verbatim was too much Rambo motivation. My second one was likes to play soldier. So these were the things I was getting hit for, because I was in the wing. There's like 9 officers for every enlisted dude. It's a different world. I mean, I respect it and I see its importance in the whole, global theater, but it just wasn't for me. So after 6 years or five active, one reserve, after 5 years, I got out. I was in Cherry Point for most of it, 1 year in 29. I love 29 Palms because it was division base. Cherry Point, different world. But once I got out, the whole acting thing was just an accident. I was working at a Lone Star Steakhouse in Huntsville, Alabama, and there was this girl there who was talking about her voice lessons. We were just rolling silver at the end of the shift. I just got out. I was just an honorary 20 something year old Marine. And then she was going on about how difficult her voice lessons were. And I was like, come on, chick, I'm a Marine. You want to talk about hard? I'll talk to you about it.
Right.
And then she whipped up on me. She was like, I bet you couldn't do 3 weeks, soldier boy. And her intensity got me. And I was like, all right, cool, fine. I'll do 6 weeks. So I went and found a voice coach just to prove her wrong. And then after the first week, I forgot about the bet because the coach was so good at handling me. He just drew me into it. Then he put me into a course first. Then it was a play that I did. Then I just started auditioning and I was booking 80, 90% of my gigs. But I believe it wasn't because I knew anything about acting. It was because these tools and techniques I had built as a youth. And around this was 2003 when the acting thing started. 2008 is when I had my aha moment, I guess you could say. I call it the quickening from Highlander.
Right.
I was shooting this film called Hunger, and Lyndon Ashby. You ever see the Mortal Kombat films, the '93 version?
Yep. All of them.
Lyndon
Absolutely.
Ashby played Johnny Cage. He was.
Yeah.
It was the. Yeah, I was opposite him. He was in this movie called Hunger. I was doing,
Okay.
and I was just stoked because I was doing a scene with Johnny Cage. It was awesome, but he was on camera, not me. And then when they yelled cut, I just remember how he reached up and shook my hand like I pulled his baby from a fire. I couldn't understand it. But it took me about 6 weeks of thinking it and later in life to realize it altogether. But normally in a situation like that, the camera's on him as an actor on my part, not on camera. I would just be blah, blah, blah the lines, just giving him the lines as easy as I could, not putting effort into it. But because I live in this lifestyle of being present in the moment. Even when I read the lines out of character, I was still giving enough to him where he could react truthfully and honestly, and it was making his performance better. That's why I shook my hand because I was doing the work that I needed to do to give to him to make his scene better because that's what he needs as an actor, to look best
Wow.
in the moment.
Sure.
And I didn't realize that. But it was after that understanding, I realized that everything that I had done in life was the same thing that actors do. But the more important part was that it's all teachable. Like, consider this. How many generations of adolescents have we gone through without being able to teach our kids how to deal with their emotions? When over the last century, we've had a systemic way to teach people how to deal with their emotions. Because as actors, we use real emotions in imaginary circumstances, not fake emotions. So if we're using real emotions, we have tools and techniques. The problem is people say, oh, well, what do I need to learn acting stuff? That's not the mentality. Think of it about tools and techniques. Because when people say that to me, it's like, I got a screwdriver here and I'm unscrewing a toy Tonka truck for my kid. And then someone walks along. It's like, what do I need a screwdriver used kids' toys for? I'm like, no, you can use it for screws on your Tonka or your Ford F-150 too. The tools and techniques that were designed by acting masters to chisel the marble of their work. Their work just happened to be the human mind and emotions. So they created tools to develop and grow the human mind and emotions. I'm just arguing we all have a mind and emotions. Why aren't we giving these tools and techniques to everyone else? Like, let me just drop just one set on you. This is called the Stanislavski system. This is how actors break down a moment. Like, think about it. This will work not only on you as adults, as men, but as teaching your children. Because if I had kids, I don't have children yet, but if I ever do, I'm definitely going to teach them this. And again, this is just every moment we ask ourselves these questions. Number one, who am I? This is the moment in relation to you.
Sure.
Number two, where am I? This is the moment in relation to the environment. Number three, when is it? This is the moment in relation to time. Kind of like, am I about to speak to my boss something difficult before he's had lunch? Am I about to go out on the road before rush hour traffic? Number four, what do I want? This is the moment in relation to purpose. Number five, why do I want it? This is the moment in relation to desire. Because if you don't understand the what and the why, someone can use their why to overtake your what, and you're building their dream essentially. Number six, how do I get it? This is the moment in relation to action. This is your planning. What are you actually doing? And number seven, what's in my way? This is the moment in relation to obstacles. This is how we ground ourselves as a character in for the imaginative on stage. But again, when we in life, we tell ourselves all the time, we have to build our character. We have to build our character. Well, these are the tools and techniques how we do it. So it's like if we start
Hmm.
implementing these and teaching the kids, like in elementary school and junior high, as they grow up, by the time they hit adolescence, they're going to be so formidable. Those little emotional things, ticks won't even hit them. They won't even bother them. And by the time they grow up, they're going to be, artistic scientists. They're going to be thinking creatives. So we have the tools already. It's just we're not implementing them properly because they're sitting with the theater kids. And who looks to the theater kids for world changing knowledge? Simple
Sure.
reality. And like I say, this is the simplest way I can explain it. When we gave the world written literacy, changed the world. When we gave the world numerical literacy, mathematics, changed the world. Why wouldn't it change the world if we gave them systemic mental and emotional literacy? Like the human brain's a supercomputer, right? I'm not saying that, science is. Think of it like this. These tools and techniques, this is the Windows 11. This is the Linux Red Hat. This is the operating system that you can use to interface your mind and emotions with great ease. So you're not sitting there writing long code. Now you're just jumping into little bubbles, little GUIs, and just boop, 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 doing everything you need. And it's beautiful because you can teach it to your kids simply and easily. So now you're giving them a leg up. Because we already know that, what do you call it? Corporations and the powers that be, the people with all the money in charge, they're pouring billions and billions of dollars into studying human research, human behavior to
Sure.
affect how we purchase stuff. If we start building and growing ourselves, we negate their ability. Because if you build yourself, you're not insecure enough to be tempted by those things. You can't be ployed in by those things. So now you're making your own choices. Someone's not making your choices for you, and that goes back into the what and the why. If you understand those words, you negate those things. But the thing is, we don't think this way. We're all programmed, but we're
Right.
programmed in, yeah, the basic education system we have. I'm saying take the programming into your own hands and build yourself to grow in the direction of your dreams.
This sounds like something that's kind of out there when you start listening to it. When you continue to listen to it and you really apply it to everything going on in the world today, this is a movement that is going on, um, just in general, in terms of break free from the matrix and, stop listening to what you've been programmed to think and feel and everything else. What you're introducing and what you're advocating for is an actual plan to uh, implement a method to younger people so that when they're figuring out who they are, they know what questions to ask. Because, some of it is that they get to decide who they are. It isn't just already pre-programmed in you. I mean, you get to choose who you are in this world. And so, when I first heard it, I was like, wait a minute, it's acting. So are you talking about pretending like things are okay? Now that I've heard you explain it, not only do I get it, but I'm 100% in favor of it. And where did this, I mean, I know who invented it, but where did this come from with you? I mean, like learning it for you and your craft into, I need to push this idea that everybody should be doing this. When did you make that transition from actor to advocate?
I don't know exactly it because I didn't. My problem is I never know what I'm doing. I follow my impulses so recklessly
That's
that I
fair.
just dive into things. Because, like the book, I don't know anything about writing a book. I legit saw a Facebook post that said, you know, write a book, blah blah blah, and it was just an ad. It was for this place called Author Academy Elite, and I jumped on and like I put 50 grand into this book, and I've sold 37 copies. Yeah, I didn't know what I was doing, and
Oh my
most of it
word.
went. But yeah, I poured a crap load. That's like a car into this book. But the book is worth it at the end because a lot of it went into the ghostwriting. And I'll say this about it. When have you ever seen the Godfather movies?
Oh yeah, I'm Italian. Come on,
All
big
right.
brother.
Okay, sorry, my apologies. When I handed him my manuscript to ghostwrite, it was Fredo. When he handed me back, it was Michael. It's the best way I can compliment
Wow.
yeah, because I wrote 120,000 words. He cut it down to 60. Um, but it was just he moved stuff around. He did add some things, but it's like it was amazing to see what the editing process is like. But again, that's not really so much the advocacy part. It's just that was a part of the journey along the way. It's like I started acting in 2003. The idea hit me in 2008. 2000, but the problem was in 2008, I had a real rough time, broke my mind essentially, and that put me down till about 2010. So I started rebuilding myself in 2010, and then a lot of jobs made it difficult. So it's not really so much that I was advocating for it. I was just trying to figure out what I could do with the idea. But it wasn't until real recently that I really got to the point where I really understood this is kind of like a charge. I mean, the military, it's like civilians don't understand a charge the same way that military people do. And it's like when this fell into my lap, it's like I didn't, because there's times I don't want to do it. I mean, I've been doing it since 2008, and essentially, but it's like it's irritating because it's like trying to explain it and people don't understand it. I don't know how to say it, But at the same time, it's like I don't see anyone else doing it. So I know I have to carry this weight with this charge until I figure out the right answer or carry it to where it needs to go to the next level because I recognize its importance. I see it as gold. And I don't mean that in a monetary way. I mean, I believe this will elevate our species the same way writing and mathematics did. I'm just not the hero this idea needs. I'm the hobo it has. So I'm trying to scoot it along as best I can, you know?
Sure.
So I don't know. It's like it's really become passionate, I guess you could say, but I don't know where it began or where it came from. It's just the more I did it, the more I hate to say because I know this will probably sound come out wrong, but sometimes I feel like it's out of spite too, because life has been kicking me so many times.
Yeah.
I've reset this because I started teaching this through the school system for a year for free. And I taught it for free because I knew I had no credentials. I'm a high school dropout. You know, I shouldn't be the guy carrying this idea. But the teachers, the students, the parents, they were loving it. The superintendent called me back up. He's like, we want to bring you back next year and add two more schools on. I'm like, all right, cool. And he's like, yeah, but there's still no compensation. And it's like, I can't keep doing this for free, you know? I mean, I get it, but I proved myself for a year. So it's like I've had so many instances like that where there were successes, but Pyrrhic victories, you know? And it's just like I feel like it going out of spite, but yeah, it's passion, but it's a mix of a lot of things, you know. It's just been a roller coaster, I guess you could say.
Wow. When you first were telling everybody about this right here on our episode, you went right into, that's how we're programmed. And
Hmm.
that's what the corporations and, of course, social media and, life and that's what government, that's what everybody wants us to do is to be mindless, obedient, just good soldiers, do what you're told, right? Go to work, come home, pay your bills, pay us, go to bed, repeat. Is that the reason why this sort of thing is not being received or being considered or being implemented, in your opinion? Or is that something you have to overcome? Because that's a
I
hurdle.
think it's something I have to overcome because, again, connecting to what you're saying, it's the way the machine, the global or maybe national, global, whatever machine is run. It's easier to control one person than it is many. So you put them all through the same factory model to create the same person. If we were really serious about educating kids, we would when we broke them up into groups of 30, we'd be like, all 30 of those are audio learners, put them with an audio teacher. All 30 of those are practical learners, put them with a practical tutor. We would break them up in the way they learn best because we learn differently. I was a terrible student. I was an awesome learner. It's just once I figured out how I learned, I absorb like a
Yeah.
sponge. It's just we don't go after those goals. So overcoming that is a problem because people, like I said, people always say that to me. It's like, what do I need actor exercises? What do I need those? It's like, no, this is a way of being. You know, this is changing who you are, grow insecurities. You can literally be any other human being mentally and emotionally. That's what these tools do. So if you want to be the life of a party, you want to jump over the improv arena. You can learn all the tools and techniques that allow you, and more than that, like I can point to scientific places, sense theater. It teaches kids with autism how to understand the environment better by using improv techniques in a sense. So basically, what they do is they pull the curtain back by teaching them how the environment situation works so they don't have to pick up on the social cues. You have trauma drama that takes kids who have dealt with trauma, teens who dealt with trauma in their life. Now, what they do is they teach them trauma in a completely different trauma, unattached to what they went through. That way, they can learn the tools and techniques to deal with that trauma. That way, they can level up, take those tools and techniques, and deal with their own trauma later. So it's like reverse engineering healing in a sense.
Hmm.
Um, is like what's it UC Irvine, California. They had a class. I don't know if they still do, but it was the merging of the memory center along with the acting class. Elmhurst College has a class they're doing it with. Sing Sing. That there's the Oscars. They just had one of the actors win an Oscar for a film called Sing Sing. That whole story goes back to Miguel Pinheiro too, where Sing Sing Maximum Security Prison was using theater programs to help people who were hardened criminals, in a sense, rehabilitate. Now they can't get back out of the system; they're lifelong prisoners, but they're not as violent as they used to be, or they've learned to regulate that violence because that's what these tools do. They give you empathy, emotional regulation, critical thinking skills. So their theory of mind, they're changing the way you are as a person. It's not pretend. It's like if you go over the vast 2,500 years of acting, the first 2,100 years going back to the Greeks, that was masking, pretending, representation. The 300 years that followed, like Victorian era, Shakespeare, it moved into realism. The last 100 years with Stanislavski, that's when it became philosophical. That's when it changed. Uta Hagen, Meisner. Meisner teaches reading behavior. because there's different schools of acting too. There's inside out and outside in. Stanislavski is inside out. That's where you build yourself from the inside and work externally. Outside in is where you work from the
Hmm.
outside and internally. Like Meisner, if we were doing repetition, we would be speaking back and forth. Like I'd be saying, you're wearing a headset, and you would repeat, I'm wearing a headset. You're wearing a headset. I'm wearing a headset. It sounds like nonsense, but the point is to take your mind off the words and to focus on behavior, focus on exterior stimuli.
Hmm.
So it's teaching you these underlying skills, soft skills that we don't really understand. Like, let me read you a list of soft skills that are learned either directly or as a byproduct.
Go
And
for
like I
it.
said, yeah, 1 second. All right, this is what I refer to as the intangible toolbox, or part of it: presence, situational awareness, initiative, grit, projection, wit, breeziness, motivation, emotional regulation, empathy, critical thinking, teamwork, public speaking, problem solving, creativity, listening, independence, mindfulness, preparation, organization, goal orientation, interpersonal skills, communication. I mean, all of these things are real life skills that we learn. It's just people are blocked by the mentality. It's like, oh, it's acting, it's acting. It's like, no, these are screwdrivers, these are hammers, these are chisels. These are things we sculpt the mind. Throw the acting part away, leave it in entertainment. Take these tools, put them in education, we change the world.
It would change the world because of all those things that you were just listing, it was like I started to smile because as I'm hearing you list them in my head, I'm going, nope, nope, nope. The government will not allow you to learn any of those things at a young age because then you grow up and you have a mind of your own. And
You're
you're
not that
you're
one person they can control.
right. And you're strong enough to think through things and to
Mm-hmm.
not simply be fed your opinion. Wow. And wow. So you're talking about teaching it to younger kids, which I get.
I mean,
You get
that's
anything to
one way.
younger kids. What's that?
That's one way. This works on
Right.
anybody at any age, at any time. This because again,
That's where I was
we're all,
going.
yeah. I just say my mentality is start them while they're young.
But if you can't, this
Mm-hmm.
is something. How old were you when you learned it?
Well, it's hard. Again, I started at age 4, so I'm on a different level with it. When I came with the
That's right.
idea, I was 2008 is when it hit me. I was in probably 30 then. I'm a
Okay.
Gen Xer, so I'm almost 50 now.
I,
So
as Gen Xers, we all do that. How old am I?
yeah, yeah, right.
Where am I at? Just so I understand. Okay, but so an adult can learn that. So
hmm
then let me ask you this: in terms of what we're talking about here, the because getting into the school system, I mean, it's a noble fight, and I would love to see it. I'm nodding my head right along with you, but we both know what kind of hurdle that would be to overcome because it upsets the entire apple cart of what we deal with in society. So how much of this the responsibility for teaching your children this, teaching yourselves first, and then teaching your children this falls on parents.
I would think right now in this world, 100%, because there isn't anywhere else.
It's the only way to
Nowhere
do it.
else is
Yeah.
this way. I mean, you can go to acting classes, but again, they're still teaching it in the essence of acting, and that is not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about because I'm an actor. I have great respect for acting, and I understand the excellence that we've hit in these last 100 years. But even thinking in that way throws people off. So I just nick that in the bud mostly when I talk to people about it, because this is about the tools and techniques. If you start taking these tools and techniques to heart and using them and applying them, it'll change the way you are. Like I use the analogy of a submarine and sonar. When a submarine's underwater, it can't see anything. It's got to send a ping out. The ping lets it know where the subs are, where whales are, where the ground is, where ships are, dropping depth charge on the surface level. These 7 questions are like that sonar. When I walk into a room, ping, all these questions go out, all these answers come back. I can now answer what I need to do in that situation in a much better place than my partner can. Like if I go to a job interview, you better believe I've rehearsed that interview 100 times, where most people have gone in there cold the first time.
Hmm.
All these situations, I've learned active listening skills. Like I've never had that situation where, with any female, where I can't understand what they're saying to me, because emotions aren't male and female, they're human. Women speak emotionally. So, because I've developed my emotions in such a great way, I listen emotionally to females. And granted, not all females are the same. Some don't talk that way, but the vast majority do. And I'm able to know which ones do and which ones don't pretty quickly just by presenting myself that way. Because again, it's spiritual shapeshifting. I'm changing my mental and emotional makeup as I go along. Like I said, predator vision is just click, click, click. So as I'm doing that, it lets me connect to the people because I can read emotions much better because I've exercised them. That's essentially what we actors do. It's like if you go to the gym and you work out, your muscles grow, right? Well, if you start feeling your emotions on a regular basis, they're going to grow. When I'm an actor looking at a script, that's my coloring book. It's black and white. My emotions are the crayons that I color that character in. It's the same way with a human being. Do you want to be passionate? Do you want to be intense? Learn how your emotions work. Release them on command the way you want to, and it makes you passionate. I could be passionate about talking about a paint drying because I'm just releasing emotions at that point because I've connected with them so well, I've grown them so well, and people gravitate me towards that. It doesn't matter what I talk about. It's because I do it with so much intent and intensely that they gravitate towards that because people want to feel that. They want to feel those emotions. It's energy that courses through us because that's all I see emotions as. It's flavored energy. Now, as I practice and feel those, I have control over that flavor. And that flavor is essentially what people read as my character and personality, because that's what I'm pushing out. Again, my behavior as well. But again, I learned to study behavior, so I know how to behave. It's like you've heard of the it factor, right?
I've heard of it. Yes.
Could you break it down at all?
Probably not.
Let me give you 5 points and tell me what you think.
Okay.
All right, these are the 5 points that I'm saying make up the it factor: active listening, charm, intensity, generosity, and poise. Now, I'm saying if you take those 5 factors, that will give you the illusion of the it factor. And that's all you need because the it factor is an illusion. It's personality traits that we pick out. But saying the it factor makes it all, ooh, mysterious. But if you take the time to break it down, now it's more manageable because all I got to do, give myself poise. That's how I learn how to stand. People do that in the red carpet all the time. So I just got to figure out how to stand. Generosity, that's easy. I just got to be giving to people, not necessarily with money, with your personality, with your time. Give them stuff that makes them feel valuable, you know, intensity, like I was just talking about, bring that passion to it. So when you figure out what these 5 things are, boom, you can break them down. Now you can become that. So everywhere you go, now you have the it factor, and people will recognize that, but they won't be able to explain it because they haven't taken the time to break it down.
So those things that you just listed, that actually sounds like advice that I'd be giving one of my sons on how to be a good husband. To be honest, as you were saying them, I'm like, when have I said words like this? Sounds kind of familiar. I didn't realize I was talking about an it factor or anything, but it's the general idea.
They're
So,
open secrets. We all know parts and bits and pieces of them there. But again, it's like there was some point in time when everybody understood numbers. It's like, yeah, I got 5 of this. But once we gave them mathematics, we gave them a system that everybody could use. So it's like we all know it. Now that we know that there's a system, now everybody can tap into it. And it's not so
understood.
much mystery anymore. And it's not, and it'll make it easier to parent too, because you got your kids. Now you have a system you can give them. Don't give them the platitudes anymore. These are the step by step tools to govern your emotions, to learn how to make choices, how to project your mind ahead into the moment to see what's going to happen ahead of time. Because that's what acting does. You're looking ahead different scenes to see what's going to happen to your character in the future. You can do the same thing now. Just see different universes. It's kind of like the theory of multiple universes,
Hmm.
where there's different versions of me out there. All I've essentially done was take all those different versions of me and pull them into this mind. Granted, they're in the imaginative, not in the real world, but in my mind, I can step into any of those mindsets and see how I think and feel through those different versions.
Brother, this is absolutely fascinating. I keep going back to how people can put themselves through this and teaching it to kids, teaching it to younger people. You want to start young, all the things that you've been building up to. It doesn't seem like there's any way to honestly teach this to your child if you haven't done it for yourself, though, because I think you'd have to experience it to be able to teach this, it sounds like.
Yes, it helps. I mean, you can do it from books like
Hmm.
Stanislavski's Magic If. That's one of the best exercises that I give to kids, and it's just a what if thought experiment. It's like my bubbles. They're thought experiments. Like, all right, let's like go back to the interview. Let's say I'm walking into an interview, right? I open the door, I fumble with the door, and the interviewer sees me, and I look like an idiot. All right, rewind. All right, let's say I walk in the door just fine. I look up, oh, that's just a kid I used to bully in high school. Hmm. All right, walk back. Walk in the door. All right, what if? Oh, that's my ex-girlfriend. Ugh, back out. All right, walk in again. Oh, everything's fine. Talking to the guy, having a good conversation. Everything went well. Walk out and just keep what ifing it again and again and again because you're allowing yourself to see what happens multiple different ways. So it's a simple technique that it's easy to go through for yourself. And like I said, it's easy, it's best to go through all these by yourself as you go, but they're not hard to learn at all. Like I said, through I didn't say that. The third part of my book is written in three parts. The first part is autobiographical as my life relates to the idea.
Okay.
Second part is the idea. The third part is the intangible toolbox. So I have Meisner, Stanislavski, and Uta Hagen's exercises. There's numerous exercises. I have 7 or 8 for Stanislavski, 3 for Meisner, and 10 for Hagen, and also some improv in there. I write down how they work in the acting world, and I also put down how you can use them in real life and give exercises. So you can take right out of the book and say, okay, this is how it works, and just change the circumstances. Because I think some of the circumstances I put in were about coffee. So yeah, when you wake up in the morning, have that good glass of Forest Hill coffee, you got to make sure that's what motivating you through the day. So you can take that circumstances to move you through your what if. So I use it for the Stanislavski system. But whatever it is, they're not hard to get through. That's the beautiful thing is number one, all these exercises are made to be easy. They're not hard. And number two, they're fun. They're made for acting. And just going one step further, the thing that I love about these most, it's not some new program that's coming out, the next hip thing to make money. This is something that was created 100 years ago by masters of their craft who are just looking to do better work. They just didn't realize the further implications of their work. So there's nothing that I'm adding to this at all. All I'm doing, I just tripped over this and I'm saying, hey, this works on all of us. So it's like the origins of it. It's not like some get rich scheme that somebody's kind of bringing out to make, a quick buck. This is just something that I honestly believe we've overlooked for the last century just because of where it came from.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that entire movement right now of, dealing with emotions, dealing with, law of attraction, type stuff. I mean, everything that's out there that's saying question your reality. You can become, a different person if you try, so to speak. I mean, lots of those things. This seems like it kind of falls in with that, but it's also incredibly practical because, I mean, behavior therapy, is something that is a scientific discipline at this point and could be taught, but it's almost more of it's only taught in terms of like a punishment. So I mean, it seems like these skills are only taught to people who
They're broke.
first prove right, who first prove that they can't function normally. So now we're going to work on them. And you're advocating, hey, why don't we teach it to them before they have the problem,
So they don't break.
right? So they don't break. That's interesting. I mean,
It's like even
yeah, I
going to
would
what you're
think.
saying, uh,
Go ahead.
the psychotherapy, 1950s, Dr. Joseph Levy Moreno developed psychotherapy, basically just ripping off acting techniques and putting them into group therapy, and they worked. It's amazing to watch. Like I said, it's working everywhere it goes. Scientists are backing. They're saying that these techniques are helping elderly people with autism build their memories back because these are mnemonic tools. Some of the mnemonic tools, like the Roman room, goes back 2,500 years. But it's like because you got to appreciate 2,500 years ago, books like the Iliad and Homer, nobody wrote those down. You had to remember those memory, like the Iliad and the Odyssey by memory. It still blows my mind, but they use techniques like the Roman room, the memory palace to do those. And they're still valid today because it's how we work. We're not doing anything different. It's just like I said, it's just like the gym. We're just working these muscles out. And if you work them out, you grow and develop. Like I'm a firm believer that free will is a learned and developed skill. The more you build yourself, the more free will you have. And we don't have a lot of free will because we live this most people live the same day most of their lives. It's just the same day repetitively. They go to the same job, watch the same movies. Every now and then they'll throw on a vacation or something different. But the vast majority of people that I've met live the same day of their life for like 30 to 40 years. And it's to me, it's sad. It's like there's too much out there.
Yeah. I mean, your intensity on this is palatable. You can tell just sitting here talking to you how much you believe in what you're telling me. And that it's contagious. So I appreciate you doing what you're doing right now and not just here, but out in the public, because I think it's something that has to be spread. A lot of the guys, let me focus this down a little bit. A lot of the guys that, we deal with in this program, listeners and guys who I work with one-on-one, they are desperately searching for renewed purpose in their lives. And when I hear you saying things like, who am I? Where am I? What do I want to do? Things like that, these questions, that's what men are asking themselves, especially Gen X men, because we were the last generation to be raised like robots. You know what I mean? And it was after us, everybody started to think. And that's where all the problems started. But we were kind of that last generation. So guys our age are looking for these things. So for someone who's older like that, how can they use these tools? And you've probably answered it in several parts throughout everything you've said, but maybe just hone it down for,
Absolutely.
folks who want a little more of a this is the answer type of answer. For guys who are dealing with that, they're desperately trying to find their purpose. They really want their life to mean something, and they're trying to find it. Then how can these techniques help them get there?
There's a couple different ways. One, and this is the hard part, but it's not hard. It's because it's difficult to self motivate, but you have to search. You have to go out there and try different things. But in searching, you have to be able to let go quick because that's a problem guys have. Well, I started, I got to finish it. You got to let go of that mentality. You got to be able to, like, this is like a wine tasting. You got to learn how to wine taste life. So get out there, try a new hobby, just dip your toe in there. Find people who like it and taste it through them. That way you're allowing to try something new. Do I like it? Does this motivate me? Is this something I'm gravitating towards? Or even community service. Just, you don't even have to actually go to the community service. I mean, it's good to do that, but search different kinds so you find what you like. Because if you go to community service that you don't like, then you get a bad taste and you're not going to do it. But if you find the type of community service that you actually like, if you take the time to plan beforehand, see what kind of different community services are offered in your area and find the kind that gravitates towards you, then taste that one. You're not wasting other people's time while you're also, finding what's the best way for yourself to serve the community. That's helping you find purpose. But it's searching, asking why. When you're there, is this something I like? Why do I like it? What about this draws me to it or doesn't draw me to it? Because going to something you don't like, it can be useful as going to something you do like because it's teaching you about yourself. It's letting you know what you like, what you don't like. Again, like a wine tasting. So I would recommend that. It's like cut away from that feeling that, man, you've got, because that mentality of you got to start what you finish is no different than telling a woman that she has to have a baby when she's pregnant. It's control. It's a different kind of control, but it's societal control because if we get you to start something, you're never going to do anything else. You're going to do that one thing. And if you do that one thing, you don't have a broad view of the world. The life wine tasting mentality is something to broaden out your view. So that's kind of what you want to do. Just try different things out there to find that purpose. But again, that search comes from you. So you have to be the one that is willing to get out there and feel uncomfortable. And you got to be willing to suck. Like I've been new at so many different things and I've always been bad at those things because it's new for me. But once I tried it, I got better at it. So when you start things, and it doesn't matter if people make fun of you. I mean, people have clowned me behind my back all the time. But the thing is, I'm secure. It doesn't bother me at all. I'm okay looking like a fool because I know I'm learning something to build me better. So you got to be willing to those things. So it's okay to look like a fool. If other people don't understand what you're doing, it doesn't matter. They're not living your life. And the last
Nice.
thing I would say is with the Stanislavski system, and this is a good way I can explain it. Because again, the brain is a supercomputer, right? And you can speed things up. Now, think about like this is experience most of us have driving a car. The first time we got behind a car, it's a little sloppy, a little messy, whatever. But after decades of driving a car, it's easy. We can get to someplace on autopilot without even thinking about it. You ever arrive at a place when you have no idea how you got there because
Yeah.
you've done that trip so many times? Well, what I've essentially done is taken that mentality because that's a human phenomenon. We do that with all kinds of tasks. It's the way your mind processes things. So it takes those tasks, chunks them down, makes it easier to do them if you do them routinely. Well, by doing it with something like the Stanislavski system, I'm not applying that to a task. I'm applying it to the way I think, which essentially sped up the way I think. So now I've sped up the processors of my mind, so I can think a whole lot faster than my counterparts can because I've applied that same technique to the way I think instead of just a task.
Wow. Wow. That's an answer. I appreciate it very much, man.
I hope
Um,
I answered it correctly.
what's that?
I said I hope I answered it as best I could.
It was great. It was absolutely great. Yeah, because guys are looking for practical knowledge. They're also looking for new ideas, and they're looking for things like this. To say, hey, yeah, how come I'm the way I am right now? And when you realize none of us were ever taught any of this stuff, and we all just sort of, as long as we weren't a problem, nobody cared. what you believed in or what you wanted to be or, other than, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And then they still shot down half your ideas and said, you can't really do that. Do something real, so go contribute to the GDP. But
Hmm.
James, this has been phenomenal. And honestly, I can't thank you enough because this is so unique to hear it this way and put out like that. You're great. Thank you for coming on and sharing all that.
Hey, thank you, Rory. I appreciate you having me. Like I said, you just give me the opportunity to get the idea. I know it's important. I got to figure out the right words and sequence to get them out to the world.
Right on. Now, your book outlines all this stuff, like you said.
Yes,
Tell
yeah,
tell
yeah,
us one more time just what the book makeup is, and then where they can find it.
absolutely. It's called All Your Best Selves. The only place it's selling for right now is online on Amazon.com. You can get it paperback or Kindle. Yeah, again, this is what it looks like. It has three different parts. The first part is autobiographical of my life, just talking to about how I came to this idea and whatnot. The second part talks about the idea and the science that I found behind. Because, like I said, there's a lot of places where you can find scientists and people working legit. But again, on broken people, I'm just saying push it out further. And the third part is what I call the intangible toolbox. That's probably the only novel idea I have because I'm just taking acting techniques, but my intangible toolbox is what I've carried around everywhere, and that's where all my because when I talk about my suits, it's kind of like this. If I went to the beach, I generally wouldn't wear a tuxedo, right? I'd want to wear swimwear. I mean, if it was a wedding, I'd wear a tuxedo. So when people say, oh, I'm going to be my best self, I'm like, that's not the best way to be because there's no version of you that's going to be good for every situation. So essentially, what I've done is created a whole wardrobe of selves for me that I can step in and out of. So I change, and it's like hyper code switching. So I change who I am to fit the person to the situation instead of expecting the situation and circumstances to fit me. So I take the thing that I have control of and then I control it. I constantly shift and change in that respects. But I do it minimally because you can't change too drastically. People start thinking you're crazy.
Right. I know you said that to me right up off the bat. I think it was in your bio. It was like, hey, people think I'm crazy, but I'm not.
Yeah,
So, all right. Listen, James, thank you again so much. I appreciate the closeout, appreciate all the info. We will have all of your links in our show notes for anybody to contact you. And then if they want to reach you directly, go ahead and give them your socials real quick, just verbally, and I'll put them in the show
yeah,
notes also.
absolutely. I've just started social media, but you can find me on Soy Candy, SoiCandie, YouTube, Twitter, Blue Sky. What are the other ones? There's like two or three more.
Facebook and Instagram.
Yes, those two.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right.
And my website is www.tbcenterprises.com, and it's TBC like Tango Bravo Charlie.
Beautiful. All right. Sir, thank you again. I appreciate you so much.
Absolutely, Roy. Thank you again for having me.
Folks, that has been another episode of The Power Man. And I really appreciate you folks joining us today for author James Rojas-Taylor, All Your Best Selves. Look for it on Amazon. The link's going to be in the show notes. Folks, everything we're talking about today is about, reinventing yourself, finding your purpose, knowing why you're here on this earth, and letting you know that you have a choice. And the reason that we talk about topics like this, and I bring on incredible speakers like this today, is because you're worth it. It matters. You are worth it. And at some point, you just have to believe it. Until next time.